you the architect of your empire, or just one worker in another's? The world is a marketplace of wills, and if you don't have one of your own, you will become the resource of a third party. Do you feel that your best years feed a machinery that does not recognize you? Alienation is not a mistake. It is a control tool to keep you productive and silent. How long will you be the fuel for someone else's progress while your personal life falls apart? The most painful betrayal does not come from outside, but from your own complacent ego. What part of you died so that you could fit into that office or that sterile relationship? I congratulate you for being here. This space is only for the awakened, those who have decided to reclaim their mental sovereignty. You are part of an elite that is no longer satisfied with the crumbs of normality. Today, I will give you the cartography of your own liberation, a truth so raw that it will change your reality forever the moment you understand who really holds the threads of your existence. Have you ever wondered if your ambitions are really yours, or just a virus implanted by the environment? Most successful professionals today suffer from an invisible hemorrhage. They are winning battles in a war that does not belong to them, sacrificing their private time for a validation that vanishes when they close their bedroom door. Is that your face or a mask? We see this phenomenon in the executive who buys a car he doesn't need to impress neighbors he doesn't care about, or in the woman who accepts a mediocre relationship to avoid social judgment. They are shadows walking in a desert of meaning, begging permission to exist. As Carl Jung pointed out, the person is what one is not in reality, but what one and others suppose one to be. This fragmentation between what you show and what you are generates an internal pressure that ends up breaking mental health and strategic coherence. For an awakened person, understanding this mask is the first step to destroying it. Julius Caesar was well aware of the value of projected identity. When he was captured by pirates, he did not act as a hostage, but ordered them to raise their own ransom because he knew who he was, even in chains. In the modern world, applying Caesar's strategy means dictating your own terms in your relationships and businesses, refusing to be held hostage to market expectations. If you don't set the price of your own identity, society will buy you in spades. This is the basis of the first sign: to live a metamorphosis where the imposter has devoured the man, leaving only a productive shell that smiles for the photo while his spirit agonizes in the darkness. Many believe that they have chosen their career or their partner of their own volition. But if we scratch the surface, we only find fear of rejection. How many projects have you started just because it was the right thing to do? The truth is, most of your decisions are echoes of dead voices that still resonate in your psyche, dictating what you should look like and what you should desire in order not to be kicked out of the tribe. This blind obedience is the poison of individualization. Jung warned that the greatest burden for a child is the unlived life of his parents. And you, as an awakened person, must identify whether your hands are building your cathedral or simply finishing the one that someone else left halfway. The price of this search is high, and the final piece that will collapse your structure of lies is already much closer than your ego dares to admit. Stay alert. What we are about to unearth will override any previous perception of your will before this analysis concludes. Are you living your own life? Or are you just trying to right the wrongs of those who failed before you? It's a bitter truth, but most of your career goals are actually desperate attempts to gain approval from ghosts that no longer even inhabit your present. How many sleepless nights have you dedicated to repairing a wound that does not belong to you, carrying an emotional debt that you never signed? Look at the architecture of your ambition. The strategist who sacrifices his health and private ties to climb a corporate hierarchy he despises often does not seek power of his own volition, but desperately flees the image of a father who was crushed by a lack of resources. Their productivity is not a sovereign choice. It is a traumatic reaction. It is not a matter of rejecting wealth, but of understanding that if your empire is born from the need to avenge the poverty of your ancestors, your hands will never be free to enjoy what has been built. You will be a slave with a larger bank account, but with the same chain around your neck. You bleed to death trying to be the hero in a story that ended decades ago, sacrificing your peace and true creative expansion on the altar of a past you can't change. Whoever tries to heal the biography of others ends up erasing his own. For us awakened ones, it is vital to understand that these projections are nothing more than a hijacking of individuality. Carl Jung explained that what is not made conscious manifests itself in our life as destiny. If you do not identify that you are acting as the executing arm of the traumas of your ancestors, you will continue to believe that your failures and choices are the work of chance. The human psyche has a terrifying tendency to repetition. We seek the known pain rather than the uncertainty of freedom. Cyrus the Great mastered this architecture of the mind masterfully. When Cyrus entered Babylon, he did not do so as an invader imposing a new wound, but as the fulfillment of local prophecies and the healer of the traumas that the previous monarch, Nabonidus, had caused in the religious and social fabric. He did not fight against the projections of his people. He used them to cement his authority. By returning the idols to their temples, Cyrus ceased to be a stranger and became the manifestation of what they already desired in his unconscious. In the modern world, applying Cyrus's strategy means ceasing to be the fixer of the tragedies of your lineage to becoming the architect of your own power structure. You must identify if you are building your company to prove something to a parent who never saw you, or if you are in that sterile relationship so as not to feel less than the image of success that you were sold in childhood. An awakened person does not repair the past. It uses it as fuel for an entirely new and sovereign creation. Most people confuse loyalty with the inertia of pain. They feel guilty for thriving where others suffered, allowing that burden to sabotage their business and their sentimental peace. That guilt is the tribe's control mechanism, so that no one stands out too much, so that everyone continues to be mirrors of the same shared misery. Breaking this mirror is a necessary act of betrayal if you are looking for true autonomy. The ground beneath your feet begins to give way, and what you are about to discover is not a simple theory, but the end of the lie you call your own will. Don't get distracted now. We are about to bring to light that which has been using you as a puppet, and once you see it head on, the control that others have over you will crumble forever. Who do you have next to you when you turn off the lights? And who have you had to kill inside of you to make that person stay? The scariest sign that you live someone else's life is love turned into a mask transaction. You have built a tailor-made personality, editing your tastes, your silences, and even your tone of voice to fit your partner's fantasy. Are you a colleague or an actor who fears the curtain will come down? This dynamic is the parasite of intimacy. You feed on the approval of another while your true self starves for lack of expression. We see it in those who adopt their partner's hobbies, hatreds, and even political positions just to avoid conflict or abandonment. In private, this generates a shared solitude that is much colder than physical solitude. It's the pain of being loved by someone who has no idea who you really are because you've never dared to show yourself. You're trapped in a sentimental simulacrum where your identity is the price of company. Whoever annuls himself to be loved ends up being despised by the same ego that he was trying to please. It is a high-level betrayal of your sovereignty. You have turned your private sanctuary into a prison of other people's expectations. For us awakened ones, these relationships are projections of the unintegrated anima or animus. Carl Jung explained that when we do not know our own depths, we seek to make the other bear our shortcomings, turning the relationship into a theater of shadows. You don't love the person. You love the security that the character you play in front of them gives you. This falsehood is what depletes your life energy and makes you feel like a stranger in your own bed. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that the approval of others is like smoke. It dissipates and has no substance. In his meditations, he warned of the danger of allowing the opinion of others, even his loved ones, to disturb his rational center. His strategy was self-sufficiency of the soul. He did not seek validation on the outside because he knew that his value was in his inner virtue. For an awakened person, applying Marcus Aurelius's strategy in the private sphere means establishing insurmountable limits. Your essence is not negotiable for affection. If someone can't hold their gaze in front of your naked truth, they don't deserve your presence. Most people prefer a shared lie to a solitary truth. They cling to mediocre bonds because the emptiness of their own identity terrifies them more than the suffocation of a mask. They lie to themselves by saying that love is sacrifice, when what they are doing is a suicide assisted by fear. You, as an awakened one, must identify whether your relationship is a bridge to your expansion or a slab that crushes your growth. The ground beneath your feet begins to give way, and what you are about to discover is not a simple theory, but the end of the lie you call your own will. Don't get distracted now. We are about to bring to light that which has been using you as a puppet. And once you see it head on, the control that others have over you will crumble forever. Have you ever been terrified by the idea that your life is simply acceptable? Most people sink into a routine they don't love, but also don't hate enough to quit. It's the anesthesia of normalcy, a state of drowsiness where your days melt into a gray mass of repetitive tasks and empty conversations. Don't you feel like you're suffocating in a lukewarm water tank while the real world is happening outside? We see it in the professional who settles for a stable but mediocre job, where his greatest aspiration is that Friday arrives, the disconnect from an existence that he cannot stand. In private, it manifests itself in relationships that are maintained by inertia, by fear of loneliness, or by the comfort of not having to explain a divorce to the family. You have become a spectator of your own life, accepting a script where the climax is retirement and the knot is a series of soulless procedures. This security is a death trap. You're trading your capacity for wonder for a false sense of control. Whoever chooses comfort over truth is digging his own existential grave while still breathing. It is a pact with mediocrity that annuls any possibility of genius or personal sovereignty. For us awakened ones, this normality is the triumph of collective conformism over the process of individuation. Carl Jung affirmed that resistance to the collective norm is what allows the individual to be born. If you are not capable of being a stranger to the flock, you will never be yourself. Society fears the man who cannot be anesthetized with cheap entertainment or financial security, because that man is unpredictable and therefore free. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, lived at the height of power and luxury. But he practiced daily the premeditation of evils so as not to be seduced by the anesthesia of his position. His strategy was clear: to remind himself that everything around him was transitory and that his true essence lay not in his royal purple, but in his character and his capacity for judgment. Marcus Aurelius forced himself to see things as they really were, stripping them of their veneer of prestige. An expensive wine was just fermented grape juice. A royal tunic, only sheep's wool dyed with mollusk blood. In the modern world, applying the strategy of Marcus Aurelius means stripping your routine of its false shine. Your status, your home, or your social circle are not who you are. They are just tools or ornaments. If you take off those accessories today, what's left of you? If the answer is vacuum, then you are already dead under the anesthesia of normal. An awakened person must be able to walk among the herd without absorbing its smell, maintaining an internal discipline that allows him to wake up every morning with the ferocity of someone who knows that this day could be his last. Most cling to the known because they fear the silence of their own mind. They need the noise of notifications, office gossip, and television, so they don't hear the cry of their essence demanding freedom. You have come this far because that noise is no longer enough to hide the truth. Stay calm, but don't relax. The final veil is becoming so thin that you can already see the shadow of what has been deciding for you while you slept in the comfort of your cell. How many times have you made a right decision while feeling a warning knot in your stomach? We live under the dictatorship of the logic of others, systematically ignoring the cries of our instinct to follow the manual of what is considered sensible. Is it your reason that decides, or is it the fear of being judged by the tribe that signs your contracts? We see it in the man who chooses a safe career while his true passion rots in a drawer. Or in the woman who accepts a commitment because it's the right age, despite the fact that her body rejects the presence of her partner. You are using common sense as an executioner who decapitates your deepest desires in favor of a social peace that does not give you calm. Your private life has become a series of movements calculated so as not to make anyone uncomfortable, except yourself. Whoever silences his instinct to fit into the world ends up losing the map of his own destiny. This paralysis is the ultimate sign. You have delegated your will to a moral algorithm that doesn't know your name. It is the purest form of self-sabotage. Your essence is trying to destroy your perfect life just to wake you up from the trance of blind obedience. For us awakened ones, this conflict is the final war between the socialized ego and the self. Carl Jung taught that instinct is the voice of the biological unconscious. When we ignore it in order to follow collective norms, the psyche fragments into neurosis. You are not confused. You are colonized by ideas that do not belong to you. Intuition is not a vague feeling. It is the intelligence of your nature recognizing that you have been living the script of a dead man.
Julius Caesar did not cross the Rubicon based on consensus, but on an internal reading of reality that defied all legal logic of his time. He knew that to wait for the Senate's permission was to accept his own annihilation. For Caesar, the die was cast because he trusted more in his sovereign instinct than in the rules written by his enemies. In the modern world, applying Caesar's strategy means ceasing to ask permission to exist. You must learn to listen to that inner voice that commands you to burn your boats, even when everyone else is begging you to stay for safety. Most people would rather be miserable by following the rules then be free by breaking them. They are terrified of the uncertainty of their own intuition because it forces them to take responsibility for their power. But you've come to the end of this analysis for a reason. It's time for you to understand the someone else whose life you're living isn't a real person. It's a psychic parasite fueled by your fear. The revelation I promised you is this: the door of your cell was never locked. You were always pushing to the wrong side. Your will was only the echo of a programming that today is broken in front of your eyes. You are awake, and now that you have seen the hand of the puppeteer, the strings have lost their tension. If you feel that this is the time to reclaim your command and stop being the actor of someone else's play, make your mark in this process. Write "free" in the comments if you have decided that, as of today, your life is no longer an asset of society. It is not a message for the system. It is the pact of sovereignty of those who have finally decided to be born again. This is the end of simulation. The price of truth was your ignorance, but the prize is your life. Don't go back to sleep. The world is ready to be reclaimed by your true